Hi everybody, I'm going to read the next part of The One and Only Ivan. I am starting with a chapter called A Bad Dream. I lie awake, peeling dried red paint off my fingertips. Bob, who accidentally walked on one of my paintings, is licking his red paws. Every so often, I glance over at the empty ring. The claw stick glistens in the moonlight. Stop! No! Ruby's frantic cries startle me. Ruby, I call, you're having a bad dream. You're okay, you're safe. Where's Stella? She asked, gulping air. Before I can answer, she says, never mind, I remember now. Go back to sleep, Ruby, I say. You've had a bad day. I can't go back to sleep, she says. I'm afraid I'll have the same dream. There was just a sharp stick and it hurt. I look at Bob and he looks back at me. Oh, Ruby. Oh, Mac. She puts her trunk between the bars. Do you think... She hesitates. Do you think Mac is mad because I hurt him today? I consider lying, but gorillas are terrible liars. Probably, I finally say. He ran away after that, Ruby says. Bob gave a scornful laugh. Crawled away is more like it. We are quiet for a while. Branches claw at the roof. A light rain drums. One of the parrots murmurs something in her sleep. Ruby breaks the silence. Ivan, I smell something funny. He can't help it, Bob said. I believe she's referring to the finger paint Julia gave me, I say. What are finger paints? Ruby asks. You make pictures with them, I explain. Could you make a picture of me? Maybe someday. I remember Julia's picture, the one that will be worth $1 million. I will hold it up to the glass. Look, it's you. Julia made it. It's hard to see, Ruby says. There's not much moonlight. Why do I have two trunks? I examine the picture. Those are feet. Why do I have 2 feet? That's called artistic license, Bob said. Ruby sighs. Could you tell me another story? She asks. I don't think I'll ever go back to sleep. I told you all I remember, I say helplessly, shrugging. Then tell me a new story, she says. Make something up. I try to think, but my thoughts keep returning to Mac and his claw stick. Anything yet? Ruby asks. I'm working on it. Ivan, Ruby presses. Bob said you're going to save me. I search for true words. I'm working on that too. Ivan, Ruby says in a voice so low I can barely hear her. I have another question. I can tell from the sound of her voice that this will be a question I do not want to answer. Ruby taps her trunk against the rusty iron bars of her door. Do you think, she asks, that I'll die in this domain someday like Aunt Stella? Once again, I consider lying. But when I look at Ruby, a half-formed words die in my throat. Not if I can help it. I feel something tight in my chest, something dark and hot. And it's not a domain, I added. I pause, and then I say, it's a cage. The story. I look at the ring, layered with fresh sawdust. I look at the skylight, a half-hidden moon. I just thought of a story, I say. It's a made-up story. Is it a made-up story, or is it a true one? Ruby asks. True, I say. I hope. Ruby leans against the bars. Her eyes hold the pale moon in them with the way a still pond holds stars. Once upon a time, I say, there was a baby elephant. She was smart and brave, and she needed to go to a place called a zoo. What's a zoo? Ruby asks. A zoo, Ruby, is a place where humans make amends. A good zoo is a place where humans care for animals and keep them safe. Did the baby elephant get to go to the zoo? Ruby asks softly. I don't answer right away. Yes, I say at last. How does she get there? Ruby asks. She has a friend, I say, a friend who made a promise. It takes a long time, but finally, Ruby returns to sleep. Ivan, Bob whispers. What you said about the zoo, how are you going to do it? Suddenly, I feel as if I could sleep for 1,000 days. I don't know, I admit. You'll think of something, Bob says confidently. His voice tailors off while his eyes close. What if I don't? I ask. Bob is already asleep. His little red feet dance. I know he's running in his dreams. Bob and Ruby sleep on, but don't sleep. I think about the promise I made to Stella and the pictures I've made for Ruby. And I remember it all. We are clinging to our mother, my sister and I, when the humans killed her. They shot my father next. Then they chopped off his hands, his feet, and his head. There is a cluttered, musty store near my cage. They sell ash tree there. It's made from a hand of a gorilla. When morning comes and the parking lot glimmers with dew, I see the billboard on the highway. There I am, the one and only Ivan, bathed in pink light of dawn. I look so angry with my clenched fists. I look the way my father did the day the men came. I am, I suppose, a peaceful sort. Mostly, I watch the world go by and think about naps and bananas and yogurt raisins. But inside me, hidden, is another Ivan. He could tear a grown man's limbs off of his body. In a flicker of time, it takes a snake's tongue to taste the air. He could taste revenge. He is the Ivan on the billboard. I stare at the one and only Ivan and the faded picture of Stella. And I remember George and Mac on their ladders, adding to the picture of Ruby to bring a new vision to Exit 8 Top Mall and Video Arcade. I remember the story Ruby told, the one where the villagers came to her rescue. I hear Stella's kind, wise voice. Humans can surprise you sometimes. I look at my fingers coated in red paint, the color of blood, and I know I have to keep my promise. During the days I wait, during the nights I paint. I worry when Mac takes Ruby into the ring. He carries the claw stick with him all the time now. He doesn't use it. He doesn't have to. Ruby isn't fighting back anymore. She does whatever Mac asks. I close my eyes. I dip my fingers into paint. When I'm done with one piece of paper, I set it aside to dry. It's so small, just one sheet, and I'm going to need so many. I move on to the next, and the next, and the next. It's a giant puzzle. I'm making the pieces one by one. By morning, my floor is covered with paintings. I hid the paintings under my pool of dirty water before Matt can see them. I don't want them to end up in the gift store, selling for $20 a piece, $25 with a frame. These paintings are for Ruby, every one of them. Ivan, Ruby asks one morning when I'm trying to nap, why are you always so sleepy during the day? I've been working on a project at night, I tell her. What's a project? It's a thing, a painting. It's a painting for you, actually, I answered. Ruby looked pleased. Can I see it? Not yet. Ruby pokes with annoyance at her roped foot. She takes a breath. Ivan, do you think I have to do the shows with Mac today? I'm afraid so. Sorry, Ruby. Ruby dips her trunk in the water bucket. That's okay, she says. I already knew the answer. It's night again, and everyone's asleep. I look at the picture I've just made, one of dozens. It's smudged and torn, a muddy blur. I place it beside the other lining my floor. The colors are wrong. The shapes are off. It looks like nothing. It's not what I've been trying to create. It's not what it's meant to be. It's not right, and I don't know why. Across the parking lot billboard, billboard beckons as it always does. Come to Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Game Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan, mighty Silverback. If I could use human words to say what I need to say, this would be so easy. Instead, I have my pots of paints and my ragged pages. I sigh. My fingers glow in the jungle flowers. I try again. I watch Ruby float around the ring in endless circles, going nowhere. More visitors have been coming, but not many. Max says Ruby's not picking up the slack after all. He says he's cutting back on her food. He said he's turning off the heat at night to save money. Ruby looks thinner to me, more wrinkled than Stella ever was. Do you think Ruby's eating enough? I asked Bob. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing, though. You're sure as heck painting enough. Bob wrinkles his nose. That stench is unbelievable. And I found yellow paint in my tail this morning. Bob isn't happy about my nightly paintings. He says it's unnatural. Now, while I work on my art, Bob sleeps on Nautic. He claims he prefers her because she doesn't snore. He says her belly doesn't rise and fall and make him seasick. What is the plan of yours anyways? Bob asks. If you explain it to me, I could help out. He nods at his tail. Maybe I could come up with something that doesn't involve, paint. I can't explain it, I tell him. It's an idea in my head, but I just can't get it right. And anyways, I'm almost out of supplies. I should have known I wouldn't have enough. I kick my tire swing. It's spattered with drops of blue paint. It's a stupid idea. I doubt that, Bob says. Smelly, yes. Stupid, never. Thank you guys for listening. Miss Spencer's going to read the next few chapters, so I hope you enjoy.